That's what's wrong with the sound. It's always a button. It's always a button. All right. One of these days, I'm going to do what I've been promising myself to do, and that is to put a little checklist together here of things, because I don't do that, and I get into trouble. And we did get a disconnect on that too. Okay, good. So somehow we disconnected on our call-in line. So while Melissa goes over,
no.
I'm putting Melissa on the spot here for a second while I call back into our call-in line.
Well, tonight we're talking about out with the old, in with the new. So as you know, there's an inauguration coming up in 5 days?
Yep.
So we'll probably talk a little bit about that. We're going to, Chris, in a minute here, when he's got everything figured out, I'll give you an update on his studies. So we're just going to talk about a lot of different things tonight, freedom of speech, that kind of thing, and see what you guys have to say. And hopefully you'll give us a call when the call-in line is back up. Don't call yet because it's disconnected.
You know, I just, when it rains, it pours. Let's put it that way. And I'll tell you more about that in a second.
Yeah.
Let's see if...
There's always more stress to be had, I guess.
That's right. All right.
You are now in the host room and can
go.
manage your callers from the call-in.
There we go. Good. So we are back online with the phones. 984-214-4154 is that number. So it's been a week. It has been a week and a half and more. Jam-packed stuff. Oh, thank you very much for that. Super chat there. Okay, so how to describe it? School is stressful. There is no question about that. And I finished one of the 2 assignments that I have due for this first term. It's I'm in it's a 3-trimester year. As I've told you guys before on this, I'm doing a master's program in the psychology of coercive control. It has been a stressful program because I have never done college before. And I don't know, eating a little humble pie here, as I am wont to do, and all of that, I will definitely say that this is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. And I had an idea it was going to be hard. I had an idea I was going to learn challenging things about the subject matter, about coercive control, mostly, of course, which is what the main reason I'm doing it is for the knowledge. I was not aware of how much I had to learn when it comes to academic writing and thinking academically. It's a very different way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I had, some idea of it. I had glimpses of it. I have read academic papers in the past, of course. I've dived into academic stuff. I've always sort of resented the sort of high-blown attitude of it and the sort of, pomp and pompy sort of wordage. But when you have to sit down and start writing that, it really causes you to reevaluate some of your thinking processes, how you logic things through, how you have to think through an argument in an academic way, not just in a popular way, and there's a huge difference. We are exposed in the media daily to arguments, to analyses, to people saying things, asserting truths, but they don't have to back it up at all. They just have to say it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah, they don't have to cite their sources.
No, they don't have to cite a single source. They don't have to worry about it. They don't even have to, they don't have to worry about any of it. They just have to say stuff. Or it's all anecdotal. Right? Maybe in a way, maybe in a sense, that was part of what I was resisting when I first started talking about Scientology and first started producing content about it, little essays and then video work that I put together about it, was focused on Scientology as a subject, not on me. And I think that was a sort of a natural sort of thing about, how I kind of think, that I want to think in a evidence-based, sort of objective kind of way. I want to be more like that. But this really focuses you, because this isn't so, you can't get away with wishy-washiness. You can't get away with, well, I think it might be that way. It's, here's the argument. What's your evidence? Right? How are you going to back this up? What are you going to find? Well, I found, for the essay I had to write, I found plenty of evidence, lots of citations. And when my professor was going over it with me, he let me know that, I wasn't suffering from a lack of citations. So that was good. Learned a whole lot doing that. Going through all of these, learn how to learn the college way. That's right. Going through all the references, citing all the things, doing the library research, consulting the databases, spending hours. Oh, actually, I was gonna give you guys a visual aid. So let me do that. I printed out all of the lecture PDFs. There's the slideshows that we did. All of the papers that we referenced, that we had to read or look at or have something to do with. Laws. I've got laws printed out here on coercive control from the UK, from the Pennsylvania thing on. Oh God, what did they call that? Some coercive manipulation or something. There was some other term. It wasn't that. It was something else that they were investigating in New Jersey for a potential law that they're looking at putting together out there. I think on some kind of an alienation thing. I got domestic violence stuff in here. I've got human trafficking papers in here that, by the way, were absolutely fascinating to read. Scary, disturbing, truly disturbing stuff, but necessary to the field and understanding it. And in fact, something that, so this is how much I've read in the last 3 months. Okay, basically.
Jesus.
Yeah, that was basically, I wanted to show you guys that. It's a lot of stuff. And I've been covering a lot of territory. So the reason why you have seen, interviews and work on my show here, that are on my channel, that is maybe not the same level of writing or quality or whatever you want to call it as in the past, is because this is where my time's going. And I think I'm still putting out good stuff. I've got an MLM interview for you guys tomorrow, in fact, so we can start getting into the multi-level marketing as a cult, because that's a thing. So an interview's going up tomorrow on the podcast on that. And of course, I've been keeping the Q&A show up, but this has been hard. Thank you, Jerry, for that super chat. I really appreciate that. So anyway, I'm not trying to put it out there in some like, oh, I'm so sorry. You should feel so sorry for me. It's not that. It's just, I would do it again, but I really wish I had a better estimation of what this was going to be like. Anyway, all right. So, so there you go. So there's a little bit of an update. I finished the term essay. I've got a research proposal that I need to put together now. It's another 5,000 word document, which basically is about 20 pages, double-spaced, in terms of typing. That I have to write in the next 2 weeks. So that's my project now. So a lot of my time is going to be spent on that over the next 2 weeks, putting that together. And that's what's going to happen. So that was that. Yeah, exactly. The proposal, coming up with the research question is the key. And that's what I've been pondering for days now. But again, working on it with my friends. With my friends. Actually, some of my friends are helping, not with my work, but with giving me some advice and some direction. And my professor, I think I mentioned last week's, my professors have been amazing. Yeah. Really, really helpful. We have a call coming in, so I want to jump right onto this since this is a call-in show. And hello, you are on.
Hi, so is this me? Hopefully.
Yes, Nick, yeah?
Wonderful. So I had a few questions, primarily regarding I work on philosophy and also the subject of criminality. And I'll try to make it quick, but so there's a couple of things. First of all, as somebody who's getting into philosophy and potentially writing a philosophy book, one of the things that I'm noticing in our society is a dramatic fall into what I call criminality. Now, when I speak of criminality, I'm talking about the 9 major traits of criminal behavior, such as greed, selfishness, moral apathy, sadism, psychopathy, all those,
All right.
things.
Sure.
And one of the, yeah, and I know there's variations of it, et cetera, not, but part of the problem is the language, because when I think of a criminal, I'm thinking of somebody who is, making a choice to be, say, selfish or greedy or sadistic, whereas in the common nomenclature, the criminal is just somebody who breaks a law, where I don't see it as that. I mean, as a philosopher, I see ethics and laws as very separate and distinct. Yeah, there's some, crossover, but not a lot. I mean, I look at a country like China or other countries, and I'm like, well, ethically, they're third world. I get it. That's just my opinion.
Sure.
Based on what I've researched. And I don't have any degrees or anything. I've just read a lot of psychology, philosophy, sociology for the past 20 years. And even though I'm not an atheist, I think I'm kind of wondering, first of all, I mean, is there a market for, me to write a philosophy book? I mean, I don't want to end up like Nietzsche and have to die and have somebody else write my work for me.
Right. Sure. Well, I think
but
that
at the same time, I don't want to sound like at the same time, I don't want to sound like a complete idiot, although I know that within these fields, you can write a book and then 10 years later you can update it because it's like, well, I didn't know things back then that I know now.
of course.
And I'm, part of what I'm kind of wondering is, is there still time in our society to keep from America kind of destroying itself? I mean, I'm not a Trumper. I'm not
I get it.
an atheist. I'm not liberal. I'm kind of more of an anarchist type. But it grieves me that my fellow Americans, so many of them, especially in the Midwest, number one, they don't do much research on the internet at all, and a lot of them are stuck in their ways. But at the same time, it's like, how does one change things for the better? But then it's like, can I really make much of a difference? Because, I mean, I don't want to waste my time, but also it's like I recognize I have so much humility with, I know that I don't know everything. I mean, I'm kind of like,
it's a good place to start.
Slipping into that. Yeah, I'm slipping into that Socratic state of mind of, yeah, I know just how ignorant I am. And yet at the same time, I see people who partake in criminal behavior, who are very high up on those criminal traits, who they will do everything to claim that they know everything. And it's just, it's absolutely insane.
It can be. It can certainly feel that way. And I definitely hear you on that. So let me just make sure I'm tracking with your statements here. So are you asking me about the wisdom of writing a book on philosophy about criminality?
Yes, definitely.
Great. I think you
really
should.
Appreciate your opinion. I started watching you for about a year ago, and I don't agree with you a lot on politics and some of that other nonsense. But at the same time, I respect you as a thinker. I mean, had I encountered atheists such as yourself early in the 2000s, I probably would have been convinced to be an atheist because you have, you have sophistication, you have intelligence, and you show those things, and you have humility. So you're friggin' awesome, man. You really are. And I'm not just saying that to butter you up, but it's like I gotta kind of wonder if there's any saving this this country or society, or are we going to have to go through another, hideous, who knows what kind of, things that happened back in the 1930s, and
That's right.
horrible things that, how far down are we going to have to go before we bounce back up as individuals and as a society, and even as a species?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You're asking all the right questions. And these are big questions, obviously. These are some of the biggest questions, So first off, let me make sure this is clear. Yes, I do think you should go for it. I think that every voice matters, and you never know the consequences of what your voice can do. I have learned this lesson over and over again. I mean, here you are validating me for, all this wonderful stuff. And I thank you very much for that, by the way. I really do appreciate hearing that. But I sit here often and wonder, am I making any difference at all? And then I will get an email from someone, or I will get a message, or I will get some kind of communication that tells me that, it's somebody I never heard of before, never knew anything about. And my work managed to help them keep their family together and keep them away, keep them out of a cult or something like that. So point being, it's not, how great I am. The point is that everybody can create effects that they're not even aware of, that are positive outside of their sphere, just by trying to put something out there that makes some sense and trying to maybe get some people to listen, So that's my first answer. Is that a good answer for you there?
Yes.
Great. Okay, cool. And then I'd like to comment on the broader point you mentioned. Actually, quite a few points you mentioned. I think that the area of criminal psychology has probably been relatively untouched by a lot of the studies on coercive control and the stuff I'm studying right now. I don't think that these are disciplines that are coming together very closely right now. I could be wrong about that, but just from the research I have been doing. And I think that there's a valuable contribution to be made in showing that it's not necessarily all about individual choices to be a criminal. It's not that it's all out of people's hands. People are responsible for their own actions, but some of the choices we make are kind of out of our hands, especially at early ages. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I look at my own choices early when I was, a lot of my mistakes that I've made in life are because of ignorance. And, I didn't have the internet when I was growing up. And if I had the internet, I would have been, a lot better off for it. But at the same time, it's like, well, we don't really, even, any kid who's young, any person who's young, they really don't understand the tools that they have available to them. Because if there's something in arm's reach, they're going to take it. They don't necessarily know to venture out there into the chaos and into the darkness and use discernment to find what they need in order to make the world a better place. And one of the things I've discovered within my own life is a lot of the problems with the language itself. Because when I say criminal, I'm talking from a psychological viewpoint, and I've met criminals, and somebody like a drug addict, they're not a criminal. They're somebody in pain who needs help. Your typical shoplifter, they're not a criminal. They're somebody who needs help learning about economics, et cetera. They need job training, et cetera.
Right.
I'm talking about these people. When I say criminal, I'm talking about these people who they know they can do a different thing, but they're choosing to hurt people. They're choosing to take things. They're choosing to destroy someone's life. And one thing that I kind of figured this out when I was watching an interview by Lex Friedman with Michael Malice. He was talking about how Ayn Rand had used completely the wrong linguistics. What she calls selfishness, from what I can determine, is in reality individual sovereignty. And because she used the wrong language, she's basically ridiculed across the board, and rightfully so to some degree, obviously. But at the same time, it's like, because there's you have to understand other people's perceptions and how other people see the world. But at the same time, I think we can, as a species, I'm a fan of Star Trek, for example. I would love that type of world where the whole of humanity gathers together, reaches out towards the stars, kicks the butt of whatever nasty, evil thing is out there in the darkness causing problems for other species. But, before we can do that, we kind of got to, as a species, we're very infantile and we need to pick ourselves up by the bootstraps to a degree.
Yep.
And really get our heads on straight before we destroy ourselves.
I agree. You're not destroying yourself, right, babe?
No, just choking on my soda.
Okay, good. All right, good. I agree. Now, let me say that she will be right back while I continue here. This has been an interesting evening. Okay. I have wondered, and I have not gone off and read or looked into, the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, right, or by Gibson or whatever. I haven't gone that far on this, but I have often wondered about the rise and fall of the American civilization or American experiment, and I don't know, when you're in it, how do you know? It's difficult. It's really, really difficult, right? We could be at a precipice. We could have gone past a precipice. We could be, on our way down or on our way out. On the other hand, this entire time period could be a blip. It could be, if in the historical perspective, we could look back at this 200-300 years from now and go, man, that was a crazy time. But, like they say in Star Trek, right? They with that time that they were dabbling with nuclear weapons, right? They refer to this back period in time where, we almost went nuts, right? We almost killed ourselves. But yet somehow we survived that and advanced forward anyway. So it's really hard to know where we're going on that. But I guess your relative nihilism or optimism will inform your views on that. But I do think that we have more accumulated knowledge now. Like you mentioned, the internet is such an incredible resource for us. And perhaps the advantage that gives us now is the advantage we need to break a cycle of rises and falls of civilization. That's a very ambitious statement, because we haven't changed that much as people, as creatures, right? But knowledge is power, and knowledge is empowering, and maybe that's the way we'll go. And it's, again, it's hard to say, but I will say that people who are thinking about it, like yourself, have intelligent things to say about it. Put it out there. Maybe it'll help.
Yeah, definitely. One more analogy on linguistics, and then I'll let you get to other callers.
Sure.
So my studying of what the ego is versus the self. Here's how I kind of perceive it. The self is the software or the hardware of the computer. The ego is what one sees on the computer screen. So if you see something on your computer screen, if it's, I don't know, if the apps are doing weird things or the desktop image is all funky or it's pixelated or whatever, there's a problem with the software. So when you see these people who are engaging in egoism, the unhealthy kind, such as, the president and all these politicians and all these idiots who think they can, make other people do what they want just because they feel like it, you're dealing with somebody who has a lack of self, a broken self, a destroyed self. And you can go on into that about, trauma and child abuse and psychosis and narcissism and all that other stuff.
Sure.
But one thing that I've discovered as far as, me really rediscovering myself from all the difficulties that I've had in life is I've really had to learn to gain that self-awareness, but also that self-love. and kind of merge the heart and mind constructs together. And yes, I do some meditation. I do other practices, I'll call them, to kind of merge those aspects, because self-awareness is really what I think most people are missing at an individual level. And, it's fine if if there are some people who they need to be told what to do and they need to live under, rules and regulations, that's fine for them as long as they're choosing it. The problem I have is with any society, any, group of people or powerful people or whatever tell me how I have to live. I mean, one of the interesting verses that I heard in the Bible, that I read in the Bible when I was younger, was how God says He was no respecter of persons, and I kind of hold that as my motto, because it's like our society is so much, especially in America, especially in certain states, certain cities, they worship one's appearance, one's money, power, and popularity.
Sure.
And to me, that stuff is nothing but dust. It's nothing but dust. And I have to, I'll give respect and I'll give appreciation to those who have earned it, and I will treat them as I want to be treated. But when they start engaging in criminal behavior, I mean, if I don't, I've said this to my friends before. I've actually said this to my mother, and my mother freaked out. I said to my mother, I said, if the president, I don't care which one it is, would, basically, mouth off to me, I'd mouth off to him like that. I don't care which political aisle. I don't care who they are.
Good.
The thing of it is, at the end of the day,
end of the
day,
that's right.
I am my own.
Right.
And each and every individual. And I'm sorry, I know I sound like I'm preaching. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's cool, man. I want to know your viewpoint, and I appreciate you expounding on it. So thank you. That's what this show is for. I want more of this.
Yeah.
So thank you for calling in. And I do appreciate your views on this. And I hope that you move forward on that project.
Definitely. You and Melissa, take care. Just, stay healthy, stay happy.
You bet, man. You too.
Bye.
Thank you.
Talk to you. All right. That's great. Those are just the kind of callers I want. And that's the thing, is that they're... who knows where we're going?
Right. You don't know until you're there.
Right? Yeah, exactly. I have tried so many times. I have thought through so many scenarios within the knowledge I have of history to try to relate what's happening now to what's happened in the past, and what lessons, could we learn from the past that might inform our decision-making now. And that can be good to do. That can be interesting to do. History rhymes, I think, as Twain said, or somebody said, doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. I think that's true. But you can also get yourself down a lot of weird rabbit holes and go to some pretty, strange places doing that too. Not in any way referencing the last caller there. I'm just talking about in general. People on conspiracy sites and whatnot get a little bit too involved in reading the tea leaves of history.
Yeah.
So I think, so we need to show a little common sense. But where I was trying to go with this is that no matter what situation we're going to be finding ourselves in a year, 2, 3, or 5 from now, or 20, doing things now that you think might be helpful to the society at large, putting yourself out there on the communication, as Hubbard used to say, I think, on the communication lines of the world, is a good thing. We need more of that. We need more people speaking up about stuff. And I know there's a cacophony of voices out there. It's not like we're going to all be able to hear everybody. But I'm talking about for you, for yourself. When in doubt, communicate. That's a Scientology datum, but it's a good one. I'll probably keep saying it till the end of my days. It's one of the few things Hubbard ever said that I still actually hold on to, and it's as a concept more so than it's a Hubbardism. You know, it's, hey, if you got a problem, if you have a question, if you have a concern, if you have something you don't know about, if you're sitting there saying, I don't know, or I should know more,
Go do it.
go do it. Go find out. Go step up, you know? That's my advice, and is always to go in that direction. Yeah, I just think I think the world will be a better place when we do that. There were some questions in some of the comments. Somebody asked about Steve Hall. Steve Hall very well could have been the person, I think you were asking about Xenu, about auditing you or auditing in the past. I don't know his Scientology history. He's on Facebook. He's down in Texas, I think. But he was a marketing guy in the Sea Org, and good guy. And he's reachable, so you can ask him about that stuff. Also, of course, you could always ask Jeff Hawkins directly too, since they were working together. He was just a person they were referencing in the last podcast I did. Okay, hey, thanks, PZ.
Oh.
If you'd stayed part of the British Empire, probably true, but maybe not. I don't know. One thing that is still true that I will throw out there that I only recently became aware of. The difference is doing a UK study program has been interesting because I am learning more about the British way. Mm-hmm. And there are differences that you will not find out about until you dive into details of things like doing this kind of stuff. It's not the kind of thing you would look for or know about or know to ask questions about. But one of the things about the British society that was not at all clear to me before is how rigid the class structure is. I mean, it's strong. It's like if you are, apparently to this day in British society, and if anybody wants to correct me on this, please do so. But this is what I'm being told in here, is that to this day, if you are born upper class, doesn't particularly matter what your economic status is for the rest of your life. You will always be upper class. Conversely, if you're born lower class, it doesn't matter if you win the lottery. Doesn't matter if you're, anything. You're always gonna be lower class. I wonder if people who get knighted might be an exception to that.
That's
maybe that's a class move.
But they might have already been at least like a middle class sort of thing already, because a lot of those people go to fancy acting schools and.
Oh well, as far as actors becoming knights, but they knight other people too.
Yeah, they do. But I'm just saying.
Well, anyway, I'm only commenting peripherally on this, okay? But it was interesting to me because what it showed me, that piece of information, kind of communicated to me that in the United States, if another way of explaining the American dream as a concept, which I still believe is true in this sense, is that those rigidity, those walls, those ceilings don't exist in class here in the United States. Socioeconomics are very important in the United States, but they're not unbreakable barriers like they are in a more rigidly classed society.
Right, it's difficult, but it's not impossible.
Basically, right? And I found that interesting. I found that to be an interesting kind of random thought about stuff. But the reason I was pontificating about that is because I wonder if America really would have become America had they remained a colony of Britain and under the crown and never achieved that independence, right? I wonder. Anyway, okay, got some other yeah, I know the American dream is definitely regarded badly these days. I come from an older generation that did not think about it that way, and I still maintain some of my old school thinking on that. And I'm sorry, but that's where I come from on it. I am not at all under the delusion that that anybody can make it in America. I'm not saying that. But the promise of it still brings people here. Still a thing. Yeah, India. Yeah, there you go. We have a caste system, JS says. Thank you, and thank you for that super chat, JS. Very regional class-wise. Education's a big thing. My brother went to prep school. I didn't. There's a divide there. Okay, yeah, education, good. All right. Thank you for that compliment, AC. We are doing our best here, even though we had the rockiest start ever. Oh my God. Now, what we have not done yet, and if you want to check through and see if there's any other questions we might not have answered.
I know there was one about 7, and
yes,
know why
that
he's
was the
called
other thing
7.
is I was going to go to 7 cam.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. There is our 7, our little love ball of fur. Fur ball of love. Wow. 7 is called 7 because
on his right hind leg, he's got a little white spot that looks like the number 7. I wanted to actually name him something else, but my ex was not in favor of that name. So we went back and forth trying to figure out a name for him for a while. And he saw the number 7 on his leg and was like, that's what we got to name him. And I'm like, yeah, you're right.
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
What did you want to name him? You never told me you wanted to name him something.
I wanted to name him Booger.
What? Yeah, okay. I guess your ex and I are in agreement on this one.
But then a few years later, in 2011, I met a cat named Booger. So it's not unusual.
Okay. If you say so. It's a gross name. I would never do that.
Aw, it's funny.
Yeah, well, it is that. It is that. Yeah, is Booger a reference?
To anything?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, good.
I just thought it was funny. And he was a little booger. He's still a little booger.
Oh, that's for sure. That is for sure. All right, guys, let us comment on a few other things. Again, call in line 984-214-4154. Just consult my post-it note of fun here. Some notes I made before the show. RFS Tables is asking me if I'd like to go on the Fair Game podcast with Mike and Leah. Yeah, and I will. And you'll find out when. Okay. So science is back in the White House.
Yay.
Okay, I wanted to highlight this today because this is a bigger deal than I think a lot of people are going to make out. Science has not been in the White House for 4 years. Excuse me. I do not know about overseas calling. The number there is accessible, but I don't know about overseas codes and stuff. In order for me to do free calling overseas, I would have to. I went into it and looked into it, and it would be a bit exorbitant for me. So I'm not able to offer that. I'm sorry. Okay. Yes. Happy New Year to you too. Science in the White House. This is so important. If you guys have not yet seen, you might want to check out the vaccination support plan, the stimulus plan, all the stuff that's kind of being forwarded right now. This is exciting stuff. This is stuff I've been wanting to hear for a very long time. I craved this kind of responsible, informed, scientific sounding stuff, coming out of the leadership of this country. This has been a way too long in coming, but it is now finally here. And we've got a science panel being put together. We've got scientific advisors to the president being named and put in place as part of his presidential cabinet. This is real and this is important. And I think that is going to put us right back on the path that we need to be on to get on top of this epidemic as quickly as possible. And the federal response plan that I saw, at least the bullet points, looked incredibly smart. Again, they were things I was thinking last March. Like, why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they doing this? Why, they should be doing this and this and this. Right? Including, and I know that this is going to rub all kinds of people the wrong way, but including a mask mandate for every area that he has the power to enforce that. The president does not have unlimited authority at all, and he can't tell you as an individual citizen that you have to wear a mask if you don't want to. However, he can, from the power of the president, issue orders that say certain properties, certain areas, right, must be, you must wear a mask in those areas. So we will see how that comes down. Hey, Mikhail, welcome to the show. Anyway, I'm very excited about that, and I hope you guys are too. And we have a caller.
Oh boy.
All right. Topic is doing your own research. Hello.
Hey, Chris.
Hey,
Melissa,
Kevin.
how are you?
Oh, good. How are you?
Hey, good to talk to you guys again.
Yeah, love hearing from you. What's up?
I just wanted to expand on a comment that you made during the last call.
Yeah.
You said that, the internet is a powerful thing and whatnot, and it is.
Mhm.
But, as you and I, as we all both know, or as we all know, it can also be a detriment.
Mhm.
Yes, it can.
In your opinion, what is the biggest thing that leads people down the wrong path when they are quote unquote doing their research? I know there's a number of different cognitive biases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
it's
what's
basically
the big one in your opinion?
logical fallacies, right?
Yeah.
Probably confirmation bias is probably the single biggest problem if we're talking about, especially if we're talking about research or quote unquote research, right? What makes the difference actually between research and quote unquote research
Right.
is confirmation bias. If you are only looking to find things that are only going to tell you what you already know or only want to hear, and you're never going to challenge yourself in any way. And there are plenty of people who do that as a natural, well, we all do it naturally, but there are plenty of people who have no mental discipline on this is basically the problem. And it's a training problem. It's an education and indoctrination problem because it's something you got to learn how to do. Because, because because our default state is, I'm right. I think this, therefore it's right. And, prove me wrong, right? And I don't want to be proved wrong. I don't want to be proven wrong. So that's kind of our default state, So I think that's my hot take answer. I don't know. What do you think?
Okay. Well, I would agree with you. And, then of course there's the, Dunning-Kruger effect. I don't want to call anybody stupid or anything like that. But,
right. Right.
Yeah,
well, we're all
thing,
stupid in certain. Well, if you think about it, we're all dumb in areas.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
and like you said, you have to have a certain set of skills to be able to overcome that.
That's right. That's right. Recognition that Dunning-Kruger is even a thing is a big step forward for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I've always just seemed to have that check in place. I don't know what it is. I'm nobody special, but I always just seem to have the ability to say, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't sound right. Maybe I better check a couple other things to make sure they match up before I go ahead and believe this.
Yep.
And I actually didn't realize that it's a learned, that it's something that we learn until I read Carl Sagan's book.
There you go. Right. Was it Demon Haunted World, that one?
Yes, it was. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And, I guess I for whatever reason, I just thought, well, why aren't these, what's up with these people?
I know.
Now I know.
That's right. Well, that's exactly right. And you did your research.
I did.
Yeah, because we all know what's wrong with everybody.
Yeah.
I know what's wrong with them, right?
Yeah, I know what your problem is.
Yeah.
But you went and actually looked.
There's still a long way. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I cut you off. Please continue.
Well, I was just going to say there's still a long way to go as far as getting people to realize that, you need to stop and think about things before you just go ahead with them as far as what you hear on the internet and even what you hear from certain people who have a DO or MD or PhD behind their name.
That's right.
Like you said all along, we we're not all experts in everything. And, there are doctors out there that believe the earth is flat. There are doctors out there that think you can, there are doctors out there that think you can cure stuff with all sorts of plants and essential oils and stuff like that. The big one, Jeffrey Mercola. He's a certified doctor of osteopathic medicine.
Right.
So you get people saying that. Say people with that sense of authority, that aura of authority behind them saying these things, and people start to believe them without digging into it further.
That's right.
And somehow we need to something needs to be done to get people to realize, hey, not everybody's an expert in all fields, and you still need to be a little bit skeptical of what people are saying, even with your own position. If you don't really agree with what they're saying, it's always a good idea to get a second opinion.
That's right.
So I don't know what we can do, but it needs to be done. Otherwise, we're done for.
I agree, and
so
yeah. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, for sure.
I think.
All right. Well, that's all.
If I might, if I might keep you on for a second, I would like to.
Sure, go ahead.
I'd like to make throw one thing out. I don't know that this is the universal solution across the world, as a single solution, but I think it's definitely going to have to be included in any set of solutions, and that is education on logical fallacies, right? Critical thinking. When we're kids, I don't know about you when you were young in school, first grade, second grade, kindergarten even, you come to school armed with knowledge, and knowledge is power. Knowledge is status. You learn kind of early on, right? You know something other people don't know. You get to call them stupid. You're stupid. You don't know this, right? And somehow we kind of adopt this idea that because somebody else doesn't know a thing we know, they're stupid. They're low IQ. We use these, moron, imbecile. We use these words for this.
Yeah.
As a status, thing, right? I think if we could start there, if we could start that young, introducing these principles every year, and I think that work's being done on this. In fact, I know work is being done on this. I think a lot more needs to be done on this. I think Common Core, there's elements of this in the Common Core stuff, even though I know there's objectionable stuff in there too. The teachers I've talked to have said that, look, critical thinking is becoming more and more of a thing in education, and it should be at all levels of education. I think by the time people are getting into college, they should be, the things that we now think are college level critical thinking skills are things that they really should have by the time they're, practically at high school. And I don't mean, reading Socrates, but I do mean, understanding bias, understanding logical fallacies, understanding what an argument or a truth claim actually is, and how you back it up with evidence, not just your opinion or anecdotes. I mean, these kind of principles could definitely be gotten across. And the more and more and more I think we concentrate on that, the more I think we will see positive results and success with exactly the problems you're outlining. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I sure hope so.
Yeah.
I sure hope that we can do something, because I'm involved in phase 3 trials with Johnson & Johnson and Janssen Pharmaceuticals. And so I have a little bit of experience with what's going on there. And I have people telling me that I don't know what's going on, and they're telling me that this is going this way and doing this thing, and you're being paid to be a shill, and I'm tired of it. So I hope we do something soon.
Me too, man. Me too. Well, thanks for calling.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Talk to you. All right. Boom. Okay, good.
All righty.
Yeah. Good call. I always will take every opportunity to push critical thinking education. Because it's really, if you can look at stupid people as people who actually are simply missing a thing that you have, a piece of information, not a part of their brain. Truly stupid people, truly low IQ people, truly imbecilic people are not the people that are going to be engaging with you on a day, most of the time. they're not on social media. Thank you very much, Sandy, for that awesome and very nice super chat there. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I keep pushing back against this. At first, I pushed back hard against it for a very long time, and even up to the podcast last week with Jeff, where we talked about, you'd have to be an idiot to join a cult. I cannot tell you guys how many times I have seen, it's probably the number one most made comment on if I were to accumulate all the comments of all the videos I've ever put up, you'd have to be stupid to believe this, or you'd have to be an idiot to fall for it, or you'd have to be a moron to join a cult in the first place, is probably the most common refrain. And this is coming from people who are absolutely, positively susceptible to joining a cult. Everyone's susceptible is the point. So I'm going to keep pushing back on this stupid thing because I think language matters, and I think the way we think about other people matters. And I certainly am not, innocent of shooting the TV with my Nerf gun and, complaining about how stupid these people are. Of course, we all have
Especially
them.
when certain politicians come on the screen. Well, name them. But.
Yes. But, if I apply even if I put a couple gray cells into activation there, I know that's really not the case at all. And people are generally not stupid, So if we can inform them of critical thinking principles, and not just so that they will use it for their own confirmation biases, which is what the basic problem with conspiracy theorists is they use logical fallacies as a weapon rather than as a tool of understanding, or as a way to challenge their own beliefs. That's the basic problem with the conspiracy theorist, is they are living in a world of confirmation bias. And every single challenge to their ideas must not be, taken up. And so when you're using logical fallacies, or you're using the tools of critical thinking to prove how much you're not critically thinking, then that's kind of a corruption of the whole thing. And it can give it a bad name and give it a bad rap. And that can be problematic too, right? So it's complicated. Okay, I think we had some questions, though.
Well, we have a lot of chatter about whether or not what Trump said was inciting a riot.
Oh, yeah. You guys should check out...
Excuse me.
Yeah, check out the legal Ask a Lawyer. I posted on Twitter yesterday a video where a guy actually broke down the law. He's a lawyer. On whether Trump incited a riot, and brought up that exact question. And then took that question and applied it to Congress and Congress's powers, because they're different than a court of law. They're not the same thing. Some of the same, wordage and some of the same procedures and stuff, but different enough that it appeared from his argument about it that the impeachment is called for, that it is justified, and should move forward. So we'll see. Those who believe without reason cannot be convinced by reason. That's the James Randi on it. That's exactly right. Exactly. And also the other thing is, my corollary to that is, nobody got logicked into religious belief or conspiracy theory. It wasn't a logical train of thought that led them there. It was emotion. It was appeals to emotion and appeals to authority. And that's how you get there. Same way as you get into Scientology. So, all right. Prosecuting the president for what they did while in office. Oh, yeah. No. X-Cyan, thank you for asking me about that. If you're asking me, and which I think you are. I am not down with prosecuting a president for the presidential actions they took while president. If a president or anyone commits criminal actions, and inciting a riot is a criminal action, by the way, that is what they should be prosecuted for. The tradition of not, going after former presidents is a political tradition, and it should be We shouldn't be going after people just because we disagree with them about policies or about how they went about doing their job in a legal fashion. You know, when we elect somebody to an office, we give them very broad powers, especially the president. He has the power to wage war. He is the commander in chief, for example. If you didn't like the war he waged, well, definitely say something about it, but it wasn't an illegal act for the president to engage in a war. It could be an illegal act for a president to lie about it, or to personally profit from it, or to have other things happen. And if those things exist, they should be prosecuted. But my point was, I don't want presidents being gone after because of disagreements over policy or over perfectly legal decisions that they made, even if a lot of people disagreed with those decisions, because that's them's the breaks as far as that goes. You know, we're not going to always like what our elected officials are going to do.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that what they're doing is illegal or that they should go to jail for it. So, again, you know, as with everything, it's a nuanced thing, but it really comes down for me to the difference between truly criminal activity and not opinions about criminal activity.
Right.
You know, real criminal acts that can be proven with evidence. That's what you got to bring. And there is clearly a preponderance of evidence against Trump inciting this riot. So that's kind of how I go there. Hey, PZ. Thank you for that super chat.
Yeah.
And he says here, in elections, there's always a winner and a loser. The bedrock of democracy is an orderly and peaceful transition. Trump thinks like a businessman and not a politician. Thank heavens for Mike Pence. You got it. That's exactly it. Trump thought, as we were saying at the beginning of this whole thing, oh my God, I wish Dick Cheney would be impeached.
Right.
That would be amazing. That would be a trial that
War
I
crimes.
would definitely be.
Get in trouble for war crimes.
Yeah. That would be, I'd have some popcorn out for that one. I think that would be amazing. Yes, I will have Aaron Levin back on. Aaron Smith Levin. Sure. Absolutely. Okay. Oh, we got a call in the queue. Let me not ignore that any longer. Sorry about that. April. All right. Hello, you are on. Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me? Sorry, I'm
can.
kind of sick. I apologize for my voice.
No problem. What you got?
You answered one of my questions on your flash answers the other day, so thank you very much for that.
You are welcome.
And I love watching you guys. I've never been a Scientologist or anything like that, but me and my husband watch you guys all the time, and we love listening to you and how you know, get along with everyone without agreeing with everyone, which is what more people need to do. And it's a beautiful thing. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
One question that I did have, though, and I emailed you about it, but I'm adopted, and I was just kind of wondering how Scientologists view adoption, because I've heard you and like Aaron Smith Levin talk about they drop the body and then they go find another Scientology body to get into and all of that and blah, blah, blah to continue on their billion-year contract or whatever. So how does the adopted Satan find said particular family? Does that make sense? Like, how do they look at that? Or do they just totally go against it? Or
yeah, no, adoption is not an issue or a problem in any way in Scientology. It's not addressed it's not touched in any way by Hubbard. My brother is adopted. My parents adopted him as full-blown Scientologists, so no problem there. As far as the transition from life to life, you're going to find basically a lot of varying opinions amongst Scientologists about that, right? Hubbard has a lot of things to say in different places. The mythology of it is kind of like the cosmology of Scientology. It's bit and piece. It's here and there, right? It's not like there's one place where Hubbard just lays out, here's what happens when you die, and here's how you go get a new body. That's nowhere. So what you have to do through Scientology is you have to listen to tons of lectures and read tons of books and stuff, and kind of then sort of and put it all together in your head somehow that this is what Hubbard was kind of saying. And basically what you come up with is that between lives, good luck. Best of luck to you.
Yes.
I hope you get another
Stay
body.
low to the ground. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Stay low to the ground. Exactly. It's that stupid, right? And that's, you know,
Yeah.
you would think these would be the kind of things Hubbard would go into some detail about, because, you know, he was really serious about growing Scientology, and he wanted people to continue in Scientology, and he did acknowledge very openly.
And children would try to do that.
Well, yeah, he did acknowledge that one of the biggest fears of Scientologists is that they would kick off, as he put it, and forget everything, and have to come back and not remember they were Scientologists. So the answer that he gives is to get...
Is that the skipping the implant station thing?
Yeah. He said the advice that he actually gave was to get trained as a Scientologist. He said knowledge is what's going to help you out between lives. So what you need to do is you need to get trained so that you understand what's going on to you when your body dies, and you keep your head about you enough that you can, you know, go get the next body that you want, as opposed to just, you know, luck of the draw, random, whatever. So that's as far as he went with advice.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's interesting. And it kind of falls in line, sort of, I guess, with the Christian sort of thinking about it. Maybe like, you know, you couldn't, these parents couldn't have a child, so you know, God got you to them that way, you know, sort of outlook on it, or however you want to look on it. It just doesn't say it that way because he doesn't do the God thing. But
that's right. That's right.
Interesting.
I mean, basically, if someone came along, or if something came along to Hubbard or crossed Hubbard's path that sounded like it was going to forward Scientology or make him look better, that boom, there it is. There's the truth.
Yep. Done.
Yeah. So it was kind of.
I said it. I'm sourced. So gotcha. Well, hey, thank you so much for answering my question and doing all the hard work you do.
You bet. Thank you very much for your support. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right.
Bye.
Cool. This has been a good show. I have enjoyed this show.
Yeah.
Let us, despite our rocky start, and thank you very much for pushing those like buttons in there, guys. Thank you. Definitely appreciate that. I have not checked my lottery ticket. In fact, I haven't even bought a lottery ticket. You can't win if you don't play. But the chances of winning are so slim that basically, I believe the analogy is you will win the lot. You will get bitten by a shark while being struck by lightning.
Before you win the lottery?
Before you win the lottery.
That sounds about right.
So
like 1 in a 60 million or billion chance or something.
Exactly. All right. Well, let us check in with Seven, the Wonder Cat. One more time there. Here he's still sitting up on the desk. Excuse me, that's Melissa's workstation. She pounds out the work all day there. And Seven usually sits there, by the way, most of the time. He is up there with Melissa, because of course that's where he's comfortable. So that's our Seven. Okay, guys. Good stuff. Did we have, yes, fallacy of the week. Okay, we cannot end our shows without getting into that. Now, as I am wont to say, this is my deck of critical thinking cards. And if you've not seen us do this before, this is where I will take that Joker out of the deck there.
Yeah.
And let's see, make sure I got the right side on the right side. Good. Okay, so this deck of cards is cognitive biases and logical fallacies. And so our fallacy of the week will be randomly drawn from my shuffled deck here. And hopefully it won't be a repeat of what we did last week. Okay, here we go. Your bias. This is a cognitive bias, okay? Your bias is the Barnum effect, as in Ringling Brothers and Barnum Bailey Circus. The Barnum effect. You see personal specifics in vague statements by filling in the gaps. Psychics, astrologers, and others use this bias to make it seem like they're telling you something personally relevant. Try to think critically and see how things could be interpreted to apply to anyone, not just you. That will be a way to avoid the Barnum effect. All right, so there is your critical thinking lesson for this week. And I think we will start wrapping up here.
All
Wait, nope. Got a call here. Hello, you are on.
Hi, hey, this is me, Ascari Navarro.
Hi, Ascari.
Hey, welcome back. I hope I didn't bother anyone.
No, not at all. What you got?
Yeah, I hope you guys are doing well. I know the one thing though, about this series that we're finally having at least a White House where at least brain cells are accepted, which has been like for the first time in like 4 years we can finally like listen to people speak instead of going berserk. But we're still gonna have to deal with the people who are berserk, which is the GOP and all that. But also, one thing that I'm worried about is about next week, especially with the inauguration bill, because a lot of the crazy Trump fanatics, so I will say it like it is. Though, like my biggest concern is that these crazy ass Trump cultists are gonna end up doing the same thing again, and they've even have considered, even the FBI has been on this, like that they might do such horrific acts on the inauguration. One of my biggest concerns, though, is that what if they end up finally doing it, even though the National Guard is there at the moment, and seems like they are trying to like do their role in opposition to last time, even though there's been police that instead were taking pictures with these animals. And I'm just saying it how I feel. But
no, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
You're concerned about it, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me first say there are 24 to 25,000 National Guardsmen going into D.C. That's a lot of people, and they are armed and they are ready for trouble. They are not there passively. They are there expecting trouble. Now, I don't think, actually, that there is going to be trouble. I think the fact that, something on the order of 100, 150 of these folks have been rounded up already all over the country. They've identified by facial recognition, whatever. They've gone through, thousands of videos and pictures that have been posted to social media about all this. I mean, they definitely know who was in the Congress space, and they are finding them and they are arresting them. I don't think that there's going to be another surge. Now, I could be wrong, but if there is, they're prepared for it now. And they were definitely not prepared for it on the 6th. Is there going to be trouble? There certainly could be. But I think it would be an extremely foolish person who would try to go to D.C. on Inauguration Day and make trouble.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to get past the first round, much less into the inner circle of, remember, D.C. is laid out, to protect these places, right? Like it was built to, for fortification purposes, right? I mean, it's not just another city. So I'm not trying to say you have no reason to be concerned, but I am saying I have shared your concerns, and after looking at the preparations that are being done, even cursorily, I haven't gone into detail about it, but I think we're not going to see trouble here. I think we're going to see longer term trouble. I think we're going to see longer term trouble though, and we're going to have to de-radicalize these folks. And I say that, and I say the same thing about the extremists on the left. I mean, it's not like it's only the Trumpsters who need to be de-escalated. It is these extremists who need to be de-escalated, not every single person who ever voted for Trump. You know, we're talking about dangerous people. We're talking about also, though, you know, it's a bit of a balancing act on this. I mean, yes, there's danger. Yes, there are people who have big guns and want to use them, but there's also the gravy seals. You know, like these people who think that they're all hot and they're not. You know, and they're going to get put down. And so we've got a big mix of stuff here. You know. I don't know. Predictions suck,
Right.
but I hope that things are going to be good.
Right. I also believe that too because I feel like even though things right now are looking grim, even though right now with Trump finally being impeached for the second time, even though that's all up to like what the Senate does, because the one thing I'm just happy for is that Trump is finally gone. And it's probably not the last time we'll hear from him, but it's just been 4 traumatic years that all of us have faced.
Yep.
Especially though, even like, you know, losing friends and even like extremist cults being formed. It's like, it's crazy how things have evolved.
It is.
Even though at least along the way, even though along the way though, we got to like at least meet people who are standing up to Trump, but even though we have gained more alliances, but also though like we were impacted with it, especially with lots of people, especially in the Latino community. There's a lot of deaths from COVID, especially because I'm Latino, Latinx.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, especially in the LA area where I live. And also though, I'm just sick and tired of Trump and his rhetoric, because honestly, he's a coward at all costs, because the fact is that it's just like people who support, I will never understand why people in my community, especially Latinos, would support someone, especially if he has offended us.
I hear you.
Especially Mexicans. I will never understand why people in my community support people like Trump. I never will understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just grateful to finally hear people with a brain talk, especially Biden and Harris.
Yeah.
But the only concern though is just this these crazy ass Trump extremists. Just like you said, there's always going to be extremism at all sides, from the right to the left, everywhere, which is something that we already have to deal with. That's part of life. But overall, though, I believe that that in the long run, though, like I feel like we're gonna have to like work really hard to like desensitize some of these folks, though, because hate is a hell of a drug.
It is
for sure.
It is. It excites all kinds of parts of the brain. That's right. Cool. Well, let me go ahead and let you go because we're running a bit over now. But I will comment on something you said here, and then I think we'll wrap up. But thank you for calling in. I definitely appreciate everything you said.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you and Melissa, and hopefully one day we can at least get back, but with a much more safer purpose now. But still making sure that we stay safe and wash our hands and be proactive in making sure that we stay healthy during these times.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time. All right, man. Thank you. Okay, let me take that. Okay, talk to you, Ascari. Bye-bye. All right. Let me just say this, and then I will wrap up. A really interesting and maybe doable or practical exercise that some of you might want to engage in is to find out, like Ascari was just mentioning, has no idea why people in the Latino community would support Trump. Well, I have a Latino friend who supports Trump, and I know why. And I am not saying that for some kind of hit or something. I'm saying, see if you can find out. See if you guys can contact not the guy who's, not the type of people who are painting
And not the QAnon
flags
guys.
on themselves, not the QAnon guys. Don't talk to the extremists. That's not who I'm recommending, right? But see if you can find people who are on the other side of the aisle from you in some fashion, and see if you can draw out from them why they think the way that they think. Get past the memes, get past the bullshit rhetoric, see if you can get past it and actually get to what is it that appeals to about Trump or about Trumpism or about the GOP in general, because it could be that. It might not be Trump. It might just be a red versus blue thing, right? But see if you can find out. It's an interesting exercise in communication and patience and tolerance. And I think it's a good exercise for all of us to do from time to time, because by interrogating somebody else who holds radically different beliefs from you, I guarantee you will learn something. You learn something about them and you learn something about you. It's every single time I've engaged, honestly, and in some kind of depth, not on social media, in person or for real with people who have had, polar opposite views from mine. I have made assumptions about why they thought that. I have made assumptions about their character, about their morality, about their intentions. Every one of those was a logical fallacy on my part. It's called the fundamental attribution error. And it's something, again, that we all do. But when you interrogate them, when you talk to them, when you get the data from them, you find out that it's usually very different reasoning and very different ideas than you thought. Sometimes not. Sometimes not. Sometimes racists are racists. Sometimes, dickheads are dickheads. But sometimes not. So anyway, just thought I'd throw that out there. There you go. And with that, yeah, I do not have predictions about how the Republican Party is going to reinvent itself post-Trump, but I know they're going to try real hard. Real hard. I don't know if I'm going to buy it.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right, guys. And with that, we are wrapping up.